Well, I know I took a bit to get to this ranking, but better to do it now than wait 365 days for it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Now that I've reviewed all three movies in Netflix's 365 Days trilogy, I'm going to stop and rank all these movies from worst to, well, least bad, as none of these movies are actually good at all. This is actually a pretty terrible trilogy, to be quite honest, so this is actually going to be a first for me, as I've never done a ranking where all the movies are bad. But hey, considering how they made me, and I'm sure countless others feel, why not? So let me know in the comments what your ranking of the 365 Days movies are. As always, this is just my list and not a definitive ranking. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these videos, as it helps me out immensely by getting my content out there. And if you're new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with more movie-related content like ranking videos on a near daily basis. But let's not waste any more time and let's jump into this very interesting list. In last place is the original 365 Days, kicking off the trilogy with a member of a mafia crime family kidnapping a young woman on a trip and literally forcing her to fall in love with him over the next 365 days. Now, this is a movie that romanticizes kidnapping, torture, sexual violence, among many other things, with one of the main characters being easily one of the most vile people I've ever seen in a movie. Now, while characters go through redemption arcs in both film and television, and there have been previously unlikable characters who win us over, everything done here by the main character Massimo is not only inexcusable, but he doesn't even feel sorry for it. Yet we're supposed to buy that this guy is really likable deep down or something, even though we get scene after scene of drawn out sex scenes that border on porn territory, including some where he's essentially forcing himself on our other main character, Laura. Now, the terrible acting and poor dialogue aside, something that will come up again very shortly, this movie's offensive on nearly every level, and this is easily one of the grossest experiences I've ever felt watching a movie. In second place is the second movie, 365 Days This Day, which is just more of the same as the first movie, being filled with 2 hours of nothing but sex montage after sex montage, done in the style of a glorified music video. Though here, there's actually almost no semblance of a plot whatsoever, and I mean that literally. It takes till at least 40 minutes or so to understand what's even remotely going on, and even when you do figure it out, it's nothing compelling. It's just these egotistical, unlikable men getting into turf wars with each other and trying to assert their dominance over the women, all done through some outright terrible acting, by the way. And once again, it just feels gross, especially in the way it continues trying to glorify things like abuse and playing it off as almost romantic, though it feels anything but that. So I honestly don't know who this is for. And I can't even see fans of good erotic dramas being really into this for just how laughably bad this is. And I kept going back and forth between the placement of this movie and the first, considering at this point you barely even know what's going on half the time with this one, which should make it a worse movie. But I went with the first movie in last place because while there are actions taken by lead characters in both films that are absolutely disgusting, the actions taken by Massimo in the first are considerably more vile and evoke that gross feeling even more so than here, despite that being a comprehensible story. But make no mistake, this also hits a lot of those same notes, maybe just on a level that's not quite as bad, though it's still, relatively speaking, as it's still pretty terrible. But in first place is the most recent film, The Next 365 Days, which once again follows a very similar formula as its predecessors. It yet again has the aesthetic of a softcore porn, mixed with a bad soap opera, along with a music video that goes on for way too long. But this is probably the one that leans in the least, again relatively speaking, on some of the elements that made me feel gross, like the way it tried glorifying all that sexual violence. It's not quite as bad here, so by default, it's the least bad of these movies, though that's also not saying much. Like the second movie, this still has a story that's near incomprehensible, especially because, like the other films, they'll routinely and abruptly just cut away from any of the action or anything where it attempts to have some sort of character development to just go on these disorienting montages played over a cheesy pop song, and we get so many of these, you often forget what's actually going on. And whenever we do get to these non-music like video moments, it's still no better, as it's still filled with all the usual terrible acting and a lot of the bickering amongst the characters that comes off as nothing but whiny. So its problems are still very much there, though fixed maybe just a smidge, so that puts this just a tiny notch above the other two movies, but it's still terrible, despite coming in as my number one of the 365 Days movies. So these movies have gotten better as they've gone along, technically speaking, but considering how flat out terrible each of them are, that's also not really saying much. Outside of my yearly worst of the year list, I normally don't do any ranking videos where I just don't like any of the movies on the list. So if you don't mind videos like this, let me know and I'll keep it in mind for future reference. If there's something interesting worth talking about, I'll maybe do this again. We'll see. But let me know, what's your ranking of the 365 Days movies? Did you agree with this list at all? Did you disagree with it? Did you even bother with any or all of these movies? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it. And for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone, and keep having fun with film.